Have you ever found yourself in a room where someone always seems one step ahead? Not louder, not pushier, but smarter, like they see things more clearly, speak more precisely, act more deliberately. You know what sets them apart? It's not raw intelligence or slick strategy. It's perspective. It's self-control. It's the ability to outthink chaos, not by overpowering others but by mastering themselves. That's where Stoicism comes in. In a world obsessed with winning, the Stoics teach us a different path: how to win without struggling, how to outsmart, not by dominating others but by not being dominated by our impulses. Today, I want to share with you 6 Stoic principles that will help you outmaneuver confusion, ego, and even manipulation while staying grounded in calm, clarity, and quiet power. This isn't about trickery, it's about inner strength. It's about seeing life through a clearer lens and moving through it like water around a stone. Let's walk that path together. 1. Control what you can and let go of the rest. Let's begin where all Stoic wisdom begins, with a quiet, liberating truth. Some things are up to us, and some things are not. These words from Epictetus are simple, almost too simple, and yet they carry the weight of a lifetime's peace. Think about it. How much of our suffering comes not from what happens, but from how tightly we cling to things we were never meant to control? How much energy do we pour into managing people's opinions, controlling outcomes, fearing futures that haven't even happened? The Stoics invite us to step back and draw a line. On one side, our judgments, our choices, our values, our actions. On the other hand, the weather, the economy, other people's moods, fate itself. Only the first side, our soul, is truly ours. And here's the beauty: if you take full responsibility for what's within, you can let go of what lies beyond. Seneca wrote, "A wise man is content with his lot, whatever it may be, without wishing for what he has not." That's not passivity, that's freedom. It means playing your part fully, without being crushed by results. You might work hard on a project, but whether it's praised or overlooked, that's not yours to control. You may love someone dearly, but whether they stay or leave, that too lies outside your domain. You may speak truthfully, but whether others accept it, not up to you. This isn't about being indifferent, it's about being anchored. The Stoic doesn't float through life without care. They care deeply, but they channel their care wisely. They plant the seed with love, but they don't scream at the rain. Marcus Aurelius, writing to himself in the quiet hours of the night, reminded, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Realize this, and you will find strength. And that's what this is about: strength. Not the loud kind, not the kind that boasts, but the kind that remains steady when the ground shifts. The kind that doesn't chase every storm, but becomes the calm within it. Imagine how different your days would be if you truly lived this. If, instead of resisting what is, you focused on who you're being within it. If you stopped giving away your serenity to things that don't deserve it. That is Stoic power, not in controlling the world, but in mastering the self. Because once you do, the world loses its grip on you. So let go, not in defeat, but in wisdom. Let go and step into the part of life that is fully yours. And right there is where your real strength begins. 2. Master your emotions before they master you. Let's talk about one of the most difficult and most human challenges we all face: emotions. Anger, fear, jealousy, frustration. They rise like storms inside us, often without warning. A sharp word from someone, a missed opportunity, a failure we didn't see coming. Suddenly, we're swept away. But here's what the Stoics understood with astonishing clarity: feeling is natural, but losing yourself in those feelings, that's where suffering begins. Seneca wrote, "No man is more unhappy than he who never faces adversity, for he is not permitted to prove himself." And how do we prove ourselves? Not in theory, not in words, but in those exact moments when emotions tempt us to act without wisdom. It's not about suppressing how we feel. Stoicism isn't about becoming a cold stone, untouched by life. It's about watching the fire inside you and choosing not to burn down the house. Marcus Aurelius reminds us, if you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it, and this you have the power to revoke at any moment. Read that again. This you have the power to revoke. That is power not over others, but over your inner world. Emotions are like visitors. They knock, sometimes they barge in, but you decide whether they stay and what they're allowed to do once inside. The Stoics train themselves for that very moment, the space between trigger and response. That space is everything. A harsh comment doesn't have to lead to rage. A delay doesn't have to become despair. A feeling of envy doesn't have to grow into bitterness. And when you master that space, you become someone rare, because most people are driven by emotion without even realizing it. They react, they lash out, they regret it later. But you pause, you breathe, you examine. Epictetus said, "Any person capable of angering you becomes your master." He can anger you only when you permit yourself to be disturbed by him. That's what it comes down to. Will you be a slave to every passing feeling, or will you reclaim your role as the guardian of your soul? The world is full of chaos. People will say things they shouldn't. Life will test you. But the Stoic meets it all with quiet courage, not because they feel nothing, but because they feel deeply. And yet they are not controlled by what they feel. This is not the easy path, but it is the powerful one. And each time you choose to master your emotions instead of being mastered by them, you walk it more firmly. You rise a little higher, you become a little freer. And that, my friend, is the beginning of real wisdom. 3. Live by principles, not approval. Let me ask you something quietly, gently. Whose voice is shaping your life? Is it your own? Or is it the endless noise of other people's expectations, opinions, and applause? We all want to be liked. It's human. We want to be respected, acknowledged, and approved of. And yet if we're not careful, that desire can become a leash. It can pull us away from our values, lead us to say yes when we mean no, and worst of all, it can cause us to forget who we truly are. The Stoics saw this danger. They knew how approval could quietly enslave even the most brilliant mind. Seneca warned, "You want to know what philosophy offers humanity? A way to rise above the opinion of the crowd." And Marcus Aurelius wrote, "It never ceases to amaze me. We all love ourselves more than other people, but care more about their opinion than our own. Isn't that the trap? We neglect our inner compass to chase the applause of those who don't even truly know us. We become actors on a stage, adjusting our lines for every audience. But the Stoic doesn't perform. They live by principle. They know what they stand for: honesty, discipline, kindness, courage. Not because it's trendy, but because it's right. When you live like that, anchored to what's true, you become something very rare in this world, unshakable. You no longer bend with the wind of public opinion. You're not thrilled by praise or destroyed by criticism. You become steady because your worth doesn't come from outside. It comes from living in alignment with your inner truth. And this isn't about arrogance. It's not about being defiant or rebellious just for the sake of it. It's about quiet dignity. It's about walking your path, even when it's not applauded, even when no one sees. Epictetus said, "If you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid." In other words, growth sometimes requires disappointing others. And that's okay, because living with integrity means sometimes choosing the harder road, telling the truth when it's uncomfortable, turning down opportunities that conflict with your values, refusing to follow the crowd, even when it costs you something. But what you gain in return is priceless: self-respect, freedom, peace. Let others chase approval if they must. You walk by principle. Let your actions be rooted in what is right, not what is popular, because the approval of the crowd is fleeting, but the quiet approval of your conscience, that stays with you, always. And in a noisy world, that's one of the wisest, most courageous choices you can make. For use adversity as fuel. Life is not easy. It was never meant to be. And if you've lived long enough, you know this truth in your bones. Pain will visit, loss will knock, disappointment will break in when you least expect it. But here's the Stoic insight, the quiet refrain that changes everything. Adversity is not your enemy. It's your training ground. Marcus Aurelius, who led armies and ruled an empire during plague, war, and betrayal, wrote these timeless words: "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." It sounds almost paradoxical. How can the obstacle become the path? But think for a moment. Think of the people you admire most, those with wisdom in their eyes, strength in their silence, compassion in their hands. Did they get that way through comfort, or through challenge, adversity strips away the unnecessary. It burns off the ego, the illusions, the vanity. And what remains if you allow it is something leaner, tougher, wiser. You. Seneca put it this way: difficulties strengthen the mind, as labor does the body. In other words, the very thing you wish would go away might be the thing shaping your future strength. This is not about glorifying pain. It's about refusing to waste it. When things fall apart, when you're knocked to your knees, you have two choices. You can curse the moment, or you can whisper to yourself, "There's something in this for me. Even here, there is something I can build with." That shift, that inner defiance, not of life, but of giving up, that is the Stoic flame. Epictetus, who lived much of his life as a slave, said, "Difficulties are things that show a person what they are, not who they pretend to be, not who they wish to be, but who they are, when life doesn't go according to plan." And the truth is, adversity reveals character, but it also builds it. Each setback you face and rise from, each failure you learn from instead of fleeing, each hardship you allow to carve depth into your soul, it all becomes fuel. Fuel for becoming more resilient, more clear-headed, more deeply alive. So next time life tests you, pause. Don't rush to escape. Don't panic. Just ask, what is this here to teach me? That question alone can turn a breakdown into a breakthrough. And when others are crushed by the weight of life, you'll be the one who stands not untouched by pain, but forged by it, hardened and humbled, and quietly unstoppable. 5. Speak little. Observe much. We live in a world of noise. Everyone's speaking, filling the air with opinions, judgments, reactions, rushing to be heard, to be right, to be noticed. But what if the real power lies not in saying more, but in saying less? The Stoics knew this. They practiced restraint not as weakness, but as a quiet form of strength. Epictetus once said, "Let silence be your general rule," or say only what is necessary and in few words. He didn't mean we should never speak. He meant we should speak with purpose, speak with clarity, speak after we've listened, not just to others but to ourselves. You see, when you speak too quickly, you miss things. You miss the nuance in a person's voice. You miss the subtle emotion behind their words. You miss the inner voice that might be telling you, "Wait, don't respond yet." But when you hold back, when you observe, you begin to see deeper. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself, "The best revenge is not to be like your enemy." That includes not reacting impulsively, not matching noise with more noise. When others are quick to argue, the Stoic listens. When others lash out, the Stoic watches. When others speak to be heard, the Stoic waits to speak something worth hearing. And there is a certain stillness in that, a dignity. When you observe deeply, you begin to see what's beneath the surface. You recognize insecurity hiding behind bravado. You hear pain inside the words of someone lashing out. You notice truth, or the lack of it, not in the facts, but in the tone. And when you do speak, your words carry weight. They're not just sound, they're signal, not reaction, but reflection. Seneca wrote, "Speech is the mirror of the soul. As a man speaks, so is he." So how do you want to be known? As someone who reacts, or someone who reflects? As someone who fills the air, or someone who fills the moment? This is not about being silent all the time. It's about becoming intentional, speaking not to impress, but to express something true. Imagine how different your relationships would be if you practiced this. How much tension could be avoided? How much trust could be built? How many misunderstandings could be dissolved? Simply by observing first, speaking later. In a noisy world, quiet becomes a superpower. In a room full of voices, the one who listens carefully gains the clearest view. So speak little, not because you lack something to say, but because what you say will matter more when it's born from stillness. Observe much, not to judge, but to understand, to see clearly, to know deeply, to move wisely. Because in that calm awareness, you become not just smarter, but more human, more present, more powerful in a way that needs no volume at all. 6. Don't get dragged into the games of fools. There's a quiet kind of strength, not the strength of pushing back, but the strength of walking away. It takes courage to engage with ignorance, but it takes even more wisdom to know when not. 2. The Stoics warned us again and again of the danger of wasting energy on foolish people. and petty battles, not because we're better than them, but because we are responsible for how we spend the limited hours of our lives. Marcus Aurelius, reflecting on the trivial drama that surrounded him, wrote, "The best way to avenge yourself is to not be like your enemy." Let that sink in. We don't win by proving someone wrong. We win by refusing to be dragged into their chaos. We win by staying grounded in our values, even when others are reckless with theirs. Because here's the truth, not every fight deserves your fire. Not every opinion deserves your attention. And not every insult needs an answer. Epictetus asked, "If someone speaks badly of you, do not make excuses for yourself, but answer, 'He does not know me well,' since he would not have said such things if he did." Do you see the confidence in that? The self-possession, no anger, no need to convince, just quiet clarity, a refusal to let someone else's ignorance hijack your peace. But how often do we fall into the trap? Someone mocks us, we retaliate. Someone disagrees, and we take it as a personal attack. Someone online throws a careless comment and we carry it for days. But what does that prove? That we're easily provoked, that our inner world is as unstable as theirs? The Stoic way is different. The Stoic sees the insult, the provocation, the drama, and lets it pass. Not from weakness, but from discipline, from choosing what truly matters. Seneca reminds us, the greatest remedy for anger is delay. Sometimes all it takes is a pause, a breath, a decision to preserve your dignity instead of proving your point. Imagine how much mental freedom you'd gain if you no longer felt the need to win every argument. If you stopped walking into verbal traps set by people who thrive on conflict. If you recognize that some people aren't debating, they're just performing. The Stoic doesn't play those games because they know the cost, time, energy, peace. So next time you're provoked, pause. Ask yourself, is this worth stepping off my path for? Or is this just noise dressed as importance? And if it's the latter, smile gently and move on. Because your life is too precious to be spent in the arena of fools. Let them shout. Let them boast. Let them throw stones. You keep walking with silence in your stride and wisdom in your heart. 7. Remember, all of this is temporary. Pause with me for a moment and take a breath. Look around wherever you are, the room you're in, the sky above, the people in your life. Everything you see will pass. That's not meant to sadden you, it's meant to awaken you. Because the fragile, fleeting nature of all things is one of the deepest truths the Stoics held close. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do and say and think." He wasn't being morbid. He was being honest. And he was urging himself not to fear death, but to truly live. You see, when we forget impermanence, we grow careless. We postpone the conversation that matters. We hold grudges over things we won't even remember a year from now. We chase things that have no lasting weight. Status, vanity, possessions, believing they'll bring permanence to a world that promises none. But when you remember that all of this is temporary, something beautiful happens. You start to see clearly. Seneca said, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste much of it." Time isn't the enemy. Forgetting how precious it is, that's the real danger. This moment, right here, is all we truly possess. Not tomorrow, not yesterday, just now. And so the Stoic doesn't cling to things or people, or even life itself. They love deeply, but without grasping. They act boldly, but without desperation. They let go gracefully when the time comes, because they know the child will grow up. The hand you hold today may not be there tomorrow. The job, the praise, the worry, they all fade. Epictetus reminded his students, never say about anything, "I have lost it," but only, "I have given it back." Your loved ones, given. Your health, given. This very life, a gift on loan from nature. And so the wisest way to live is not in fear of loss, but in deep, daily appreciation of what you've been entrusted with. So hold your coffee with more presence. Say, "I love you," like it might be the last time. Laugh like you're burning that moment into your soul. Forgive more quickly. Let go more gently. When you carry the awareness that nothing lasts, you stop wasting time on what doesn't matter and start pouring yourself into what does. This isn't about sadness. It's about sacredness. Because once you understand that every sunset only happens once, Every breath is unique. Every moment is a single thread in the fabric of time. You begin to live, not just exist. And that, my friend, is where gratitude begins and peace follows. So how do you outsmart anyone? You don't scheme, you don't shout, you don't manipulate. You see clearly, you feel deeply but act deliberately. You choose principle over ego. And you walk through life with stillness, like a river, cutting through stone. The Stoics weren't trying to be clever, they were trying to be free. Free from the chains of anger, fear, craving, and noise. And in doing that, they became some of the wisest, most powerful thinkers the world has ever known. So now it's your turn. Choose your focus. Guard your peace. Hold your values tight and your opinions lightly. Use pain as a forge. Speak with purpose. Walk away when needed. And remember, you already have everything you need. Outsmarting others doesn't mean tricking them. It means seeing more clearly than they do because you've seen yourself first. Be steady. Be sharp. Be the calm eye in the storm. That's the Stoic path, and it's yours to walk.